So here we go, pictures. So the main point I want to make about this is, as we'll go through looking at these, just ask yourself, is this a building made of wood and hempcrete that was non-permanent? It was just made for, you know, a few months. This is 1902, this image, and they're destroying this beautiful old tower. What does that? It says France. Can't read it very well, but you can see here, this is what we had. And it's not just the tower, it's everything around it. Look at this building. You know, we still see these in our cities, these buildings, but of course it had to go because this was part of a complete city. And here, again, that's the remains of the tower. Now, the question is, does that look like the remains of wood and plaster? Or could there be maybe a few bits of masonry in there? What do you reckon? We've got the old world street lamps. So to me, these were complete functioning old world cities. Maybe not completely functioning as far as, you know, the electrical component, the free electricity that they were using, but complete as far as the buildings were still there and in really good condition. But unexplainable, right? And unwanted by the nefarious ones, that those who came in and basically did rule us, right? Like that they hoodwinked us. They got us in, introduced populations that didn't know who they were, when they were, where they'd come from, and they just gave them a narrative, the narrative for their new world, right? Because they needed to order it, if you know what I'm saying. From the old world order to the new one. So here we go again, right? Just destroying these old buildings. And lots of these buildings, like this one, were blown up, you know, destroyed with dynamite and stuff. And many, many more of them were actually burnt. And they sort of say, oh, well, it just burnt down, right? As they tell us, right? With all the great fires, you know, brick, metal and glass burns, don't you know? But again, this one, does this look like wood? Or does this bit here maybe look like a big iron beam that's bent out? Does this look like brick, or does this look like a covering of staff, right? Hempcrete, plaster that's been nailed to wood. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Here's another one. And I mean, look at, you know, what kind of a human, what kind of a person would you have to be to destroy this? Now, unfortunately, this is money, right? The Monai. Unfortunately, that they've introduced this concept of money, that you need money to survive. You need, you know, money makes you successful, all this kind of stuff. Money is freedom. And then you pay people money and they will do anything. Well, some people will do anything, like destroy this. Like I don't, it's just so inconceivable to me that someone would take money, which we now know is worthless paper, to destroy this amazing old world infrastructure. Look at this guy with his hands on his hips. He's either not very happy or he's like, yeah, take that. Oh, look, another one. The Hand on Hip Brigade. They're hip people, don't you know? Another one. Again, what do you think? Wood and plaster? Or maybe something more? And not to mention the size. Like, look how tall they are. This is the fence and the people. So these are big structures for the 1800s, built out of wood and plaster, where this clearly looks to be brick on the outside. You know, they sort of give us this story, but then they just, you know, brush over the actual buildings that were brick, that had brick facades. They don't like to mention them because they have experts, right? And if we believe experts, then they get their story through. Another one. What do you reckon? Brick or wooden plaster? You tell me. Let me know. I mean, you can see down here. Yep, it looks like there's some wood in there, but doesn't look like plaster to me. I mean, look at the background here. This is all completely destroyed. And of course, they had electricity, right? And this was, you know, in the 1800s, literally a couple of years after, you know, Edison and the DC, the AC/DC war and getting electricity out. Like not long after, they could suddenly light up, you know, whole cities like this. You know, so who was wiring this up? Who trained all the electricians? Who built all the power stations? Where did all these light globes come from in such a short amount of time? We've all seen this one. Standing, I mean, I still don't know if this is a real or photoshopped, because how did this dude get up there? And he's just kind of, he's just hanging there with his bowler hat on and his spectacles and his big bushy moustache. Like, how did he get there? And why isn't he worried that he's going to fall off? And, you know, up here we can see there's lights, right? This whole thing is wired electrically. This is 1893. So that would be Chicago. You can see the old world buildings in the background. But I suspect that this front bit might be superimposed, or at least, you know, so it was on the ground. They took the photo, then they just sort of made it look like he was up in the air. Because, and like I said, how do you get up there? What's he doing there? This is just to show you, this is a design. This is a gate. This is what they used to do when they wanted to build a gate. You know, design me a gate. And they would be like, how amazing can I make it? Right? How much creativity can I put in there? How much, you know, symbolism. We see these symbols everywhere. Excuse me. You know, the Fibonacci spirals, which are everywhere in nature. What are they trying to tell us with all this stuff? Because it's the same across the realm. All these same symbols and logos, right? The same facading. But this is a gate. Design me a gate. Okay, here you go. Like, you give that to someone today, go and give that to a wrought iron worker, and they would crap themselves. They couldn't make this. Now you get a gate and it's just wood, right? A few bits of wood nailed together. Obelisks everywhere, right? And again, you can see this nature theme through the facading. Of course, statues everywhere. Looks like we've got a knight here. Got all these weapons. It kind of looks like they do this a lot with the weapons, with the headless knight and lots of coats of arms, but you can see the bit coming down. He looks like a knight, so I'm not sure if that's been added or not. Look at this for a statue. Look at this veil coming down. Right, these statues that we see are impossible. And again, the narrative is made from plaster casts. Right, what happens when it rains is my question. Wouldn't it all melt? I don't know. I suppose it, you know, hempcrete doesn't. If they had the right stuff in there, maybe not. But clearly not the stuff that you know, we see, like the marble statues. You know, they want us to think we went from these amazing marble statues to plaster, right? The fall of man, the fall of creativity. This is just to show you what they love to do. You can see this scene here. This is what it used to be, and they're pointing out this tower here, which we can see. Which one is it? One with the dome. I think it's this one here. Still there, but this is what we used to have, right? And you can see here we've got, like, they've reverted to wooden planks for the bridge. Back here, it had some kind of covering, at least, if it wasn't made of, you know, masonry, full masonry. We've got metalwork everywhere. We've got lamps out here on bridges, all right, which is still there. Now, they can explain how they can run this today, but 1900, how are they getting all the power out on these bridges? You know, like the whole electricity thing, right? Electricity. We elect people to power, which we need to stop doing, by the way. It's the L factor, the Elohim. You know, it gives us a good clue as to who these, you know, these ones that wish to rule us are, right? This is just to show you, this is the old world, right? Build me a building. All right, here you go. Look at these. And these have all been built. These were all standing at least at one point. And what do we get today? We get square, right-angled, glass, ugly brutalism. Right? It's literally called brutalism. Right? And all these have the similar features, right? The domes, the spires, the windows, the cymatic windows, you know, all this antiquitech on the roofs, drawing down free energy, the columns, right? The amazing facades. But not anymore. Not anymore. Now, I put this in because, oh my God, don't you know, this is an architectural design. This is all we find when we look up for designs for buildings and blueprints and things. And these are what are given to us as architectural designs. Now, you cannot build this tower here from this picture. Literally, they've gone in and they've just drawn the floor plan. Okay, this is the floor, right? A couple of columns in there, some walls, and that's it. But as we can see, this tower was basically just a stairwell to go up to the top. So what were all these towers really for? This is what it looked like. But why would you need to get to the top? We can see here, it looks like there's a little balcony. All right, now we've all seen the pictures of airships. Was this some kind of an airship docking station, an airport, right? Where you climb up here, the airship tethers to the top, maybe recharges at the same time, I don't know, and the people walk on board. And now, of course, we have aeroplanes, right? They go in the air above the plane. Back to a bit of destruction. And again, these are, you know, a bit sad to see the old world destroyed, but this is still going on. And, you know, we can stop this. If enough of us stand up and say no, then they can't really do much. And, of course, the best thing we can do to depower these people, to take their power away, because that's what it's all about. They stole the power, like literally. They stole the power, the free energy. If we want to depower them, we use their tricks, right? We take away their money. We stop paying these people, right? Stop paying them our hard-earned sweat equity and exchanging that for worthless paper, which they have used, right? They give us worthless paper and get us to trade real resources like land, like forests, and then they go and cut them down and then blame us for too much CO2 when, hang on, don't trees take away and filter CO2? I mean, it's crazy that people even believe this narrative. Again, with the electricity and just completely covered, right? How are they doing this? This, whatever they can't explain in photos, they just sort of, you know, ignore, right? They just gloss over it and hope we don't ask questions. But unfortunately for them, we have been asking questions, and some big questions over the last, you know, especially 5 years, but the last sort of 10 or 12 years, it's all coming into the public consciousness. And this is Luna Park at Coney Island in New York. There you go. Coney Island, where Tesla, so we're told, drove a car around, and this car didn't have an engine. It just had an aerial coming out the back. I mean, obviously had some kind of drive system, but you know, no petrol internal combustion engine, just a free energy antenna. More. So this is Sprengung des Bahnhofs, February 1961. And just destroying these old world buildings. again, doesn't look like it's made from wood and plaster, does it? Look at this rubble. And I mean, this, you know, this, right? Getty Images. People, like, they don't own this image, but of course they're putting it out there that they do, right? We own this. We own this photo. No one from Getty Images took this photo. Right? It's just this control that they want to get into our heads so that we all are controlled, right? So that we all toe the line. That's quite a bell. Look at the size of this. I mean, you'd have to be have to have a bit of faith to stand under it. But this, I'm not sure exactly what it says. I'm pretty sure this was from a World's Fair, but these bells, man, they were huge. I think the next one's the Liberty Bell. Oh no, this is the one in Russia. Many of them cracked. What cracked them? I mean, look at the thickness of this bell. Imagine how much bronze went into this. Right, look at the size of it. I mean, how did they forge this? How did they create it? How did they move it? And this doesn't, you know, we have these bits here that you could hang it from, but, you know, we've got this cross on top, like, you know, any way of hanging it, cables would have to go out sideways, right? Pretty much. Like, what were they used for? You know, was it just the frequency, or was there another use in there maybe? Were they even hung? I don't know. But, you know, we have many examples of these ridiculously big bells. All right, the Liberty Bell must be coming up later. This is Chicago 1894 World's Fair, just, you know, showing a bit of the destruction and what definitely looks like metal in here. It's twisted. You know, the old made from plaster, apparently, statues. And they've whacked a bit of wood in the window, right? Just to make the narrative, the narrative seem real. But this is how they treat the old world, just like a rubbish tip. All right, something to be destroyed. Here, now this is, oh, I can't zoom in on it for some reason. This is after a World's Fair. This is after a fire. And again, trying to tell us this is wood. This is a metal framed structure. The whole thing's metal, and then, you know, surrounded by brick and masonry, basically. But they want us to think it's all wood, impermanent. And look at the size of this. This is a 2-story building here. So look at the size of this. Why make it all so big? Why make all these things so hard for yourself? Now, of course, unless it was easy, which it wouldn't have been with the technology they say they built it with. All right, so this is, of course, Chicago, right? We've all seen this statue looking down the canal, the arts building here, all this amazing stuff, and they burnt it. Now you tell me, is that a piece of wood that has bent? Or is it maybe metal? Same thing, right? Same thing, like bits of masonry and brick and stuff all over the place. But again, you know, it's just plaster, guys. It's just plaster built in a year, don't you know? In a year. Now imagine how many tradesmen you would need just to build this one building. But they had so many, right? These tradesmen and artisans, there were just so many of them that, you know, they just brought them all in and built whole cities in a year with them. Of course, you know, doing something that we can't even do today without much higher level of technology, or, you know, so they want us to believe. But I mean, that is true. But the truth is that this wasn't built in the 1880s. In my opinion, it had probably been there for 500 years at least. But that's why it had to go, right? Too much freedom. And of course, this is again the Chicago World's Fair. And so this is the narrative. If they don't tell us they knocked it over because, you know, it's only temporary, then they burnt it, right? Burning it, burning bricks, glass, and metal, because that burns so well, don't you know? Just check out all the great fires, man. And look, everyone's just standing around. It's like it's a show. All right, come and watch us burn this down. All right. Here we have like the fireman. He's too scared to go close to it. Got a few over here, but you know, this is the thing, right? And what really are firemen, or what were they in the past? Were they starting the fires? You're firemen, you know, fire bugs. They don't put out fires, do they? Okay, so here we have what looks like some wood. You can see it's all charcoal, some wooden, and obviously floorboards and stuff here. But look out in the distance. This building is, the whole frame is still standing. Got Ferris wheels and things, but this is a kind of destruction that these nefarious ones, these non-humans like. They like destruction. Like, we're into construction and they're into destruction. This, I don't know. I don't think this is a photo. I'm pretty sure this is a drawing. But again, it's showing us that these are metal framed buildings, right? All metal frames, brick facades, none of this wooden plaster that they tell us in the narrative. It's just such a silly story. And they forgot to get rid of all the proof, right? Again, now this is the Crystal Palace. And of course, this is the second iteration. Because like I said, it was built for the 1850 London World's Fairs by a gardener, or at least designed by a gardener. And at a time when they didn't have the facilities to make that much glass or panes of glass big enough, as big as the ones that were in the structure. So, silly story, right? And this is what happened. It burned. Okay, this glass and metal structure burned. Have you ever tried to burn glass or metal? We've all seen what's happened recently in places like Hawaii, Chile. Is that what they were using to destroy these buildings? Because this is clearly just twisted metal. All right, twisted metal and broken glass. So was there some kind of beam that may have been a certain color coming down from above? And isn't it interesting that, we've all heard of Project Bluebeam and the whole story with Werner von Braun and his secretary, who's talking about, all this stuff and Project Bluebeam. And what do we see recently, right? With these fires. Interesting, right? But yeah, this was moved. This deconstructed, sorry, not this, deconstructed, moved a couple of kilometers, built again, and then burnt to the ground. So pretty sure that there were two Crystal Palaces. So what happened to the first one? It's not in the narrative, but no, obviously it was destroyed, right? More destruction. And this one does look like it's got sections on it. So was that just a facade? Probably, because in the background here, we've got all this metal to infrastructure. The Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, again, cracked, but look at the size of this. And here we can see how it is hung. So, it does have to go off to the side, but that first one we saw in Russia, it had a cross up here, right? So, excuse me. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but how did they hoist this? How did they get it up there? Apart from how did they make it, and how loud would it have been? And this writing on it, why is it in Greek? Why is this dated in Greek when this is in Philadelphia, USA, still a young city, young country, trying to get its identity, so they just use, other languages, right? That doesn't make sense. What have we got here? It's a bit hard to read. That looks like it might be a date. But look down the road, right? Look at this. Old world structures everywhere. This looks like it's in the 30s. This does look like a photo, but this, that doesn't look like it's part of the photo, man. It looks like someone's just drawn that in, like, it's on fire, jumping out the building. I mean, You know, there's only one tower here, but remind you of anything? All right, the narrative just replays over and over, right? But this is what they tell us, that these things burnt, right? This clearly masonry building just burnt. But this clearly being tampered with. This, again, not real. These, you know, maybe part of the original photo, but this dude and this dude, I mean, come on. Someone's just doodling on that picture, right? It's just, and this is what they give us for evidence, man. It's just silly. This is New York World's Fair. This is from 1965. Just to show you, man, that they kept doing it. They kept destroying. So this, I haven't really looked into this one, 1965 New York World's Fair, but it may have had some old world structures in it that they wanted to get rid of. So what do? They hold a fair and then they burn it to the ground. All right. So this is the remains of the Ferris wheel from the 1904 World's Fair. I mean, what the? This thing has just been destroyed. Look at the size of this cogwheel. Again, where were they forging these? How were they moving these? Because, here we go, this is the tech. All right, do you really think that this kind of level of tech could move this? Silly stories, you know. And Ferris wheel, they got some wood around here, but look, most of these are just boxes. But, you know, what do? Like, Ferris wheels can't be made of wood. Look at this axle, man. Look at the size of this and all these cables. How were they making cables when this is their level of tech? Oh, just crazy. Now, I think this, well, it must be a different one. There's another Ferris wheel from a World's Fair. I can't remember which one it was, but basically it was the biggest Ferris wheel ever and the first. It had, what do you call them? You know, the places where you sit, the cages, what's the other word for it? Pontoons, whatever, you know, where you sit in the Ferris wheel. They could hold 50 people per carriage. Yeah, we'll use carriage. 50 people per carriage. And what did they do with that? They buried it. They literally buried it in the ground. All right. Who would do that? You make the first Ferris wheel ever that big and extravagant, and then you destroy it. You don't, you know, say, wow, look what we can do. Look what we made. This is amazing. Look how cool we are, right? Let's go forward. No, you destroy it and bury it in the ground. And this one, clearly, I don't know what's happened to this. Doesn't really look burnt or melted, does it? You know, and, you know, the temperatures you would need to melt this kind of steel would, you know, probably only come from above, right? This is Sydney, Australia. And these are the controllers. And this dude's going, look what we destroyed. That could not stand here. That represented freedom. Of course, you know, they've put their own little statue here to do with what? War. This is a soldier. I think it's a soldier. He's got a little helmet on. And a couple of hound dogs. But yeah, this is the Garden Palace. Of course, a nice obelisk in the corner. All right, because that's so Australian. But burnt. Look at all this corrugated iron and stuff that they're just throwing in. So this, though, bricks everywhere from a temporary wooden plaster building. It's another shot of the same building, you know, clearly all clearly bricks. And the way that these have been scattered, if this, and the story is that it burnt down, right? One, where's all the charring? Why isn't it black? You know, it should be covered in soot, right? But two, how do you get this effect from a fire? Clearly, it looks like it's been blown out. You know, a bit of dynamite. Or, you know, fire, right? What do they do from cannons, right? Ready, aim, fire. This is the Crystal Palace, the second Crystal Palace. And isn't it interesting they have a lot of these photos of these buildings actually burning? Almost like it was staged or something, right? So this is in the 30s. I think it was 36 when this one burnt down. think the next one, no, maybe the next one, it shows people watching, right? This is it again. Like just metal everywhere that, you know, clearly, you know, the narrative just doesn't make sense at all, at all. The firemen, this guy needs to be fired, right? Just sitting around on the job, got their shiny little helmets that look, you know, very sort of Spartan-like, don't they? So this is 1936, so they do have a little fire truck here, pumping water from their big tank. This one's got a ladder. But yeah, look at this, right? This is the remains, and what do we get but a steel frame? So it looks like that they've burnt as much as they can, and then they've just gone and knocked it over, right, to create this effect. Oh, it burnt to the ground, don't you know? Another one. So something's hit this. Something, I would say something with a lot of heat, right? Because these bars don't seem, you know, it doesn't look like it's an explosion. But this in the foreground looks like it's an explosion. And I guess, you know, once they burn it, then, you know, they love their narrative, right? Oh, well, it's unsafe, so we have to knock it down, even though it's been standing there for probably 500 years, right? Missouri, State Building, 1904 World's Fair, destroyed. I'm not sure what all, oh, they're chairs. Well, so that's interesting, right? This photo was marked saying after it was burnt. These are all wooden chairs. Why didn't they burn? Interesting question, right? Clearly, this is, you know, not wood and plaster or stuff. There's even a flag here. Material, untouched. You know, you know, it's very reminiscent, right, of what we've seen recently with these fires, where you get, excuse me, you know, literally you get things that are completely destroyed, and then next to them you'll have like a tree or, you know, a house, you know, something that's been completely untouched. All right, almost like whatever did this was focused on a certain area, like it was a beam of some kind. All right. I don't know how this one, don't know how this got in there. Okay, but interesting. This is Rome in the 1750s, right? Pyramids. We now know there's pyramids everywhere. They are not for dead kings and pharaohs, and the whole place mud flooded. And this one's got a castle attached to it. Vedula de Sepolero di Caio Cefio. There you go. That's my best Italian. But yeah, so the old world, man, it's definitely not what they told us. World's Columbian Exposition, Chicago, the White City. So again, this is burning. There's clearly flame or smoke coming out. Something's burning. And look at all these people sitting around watching it. Come and watch the old world destroyed. You know, so these kind of people, right, these are probably all part of the nefarious group, right? They're probably enjoying this. Because normal humans, this is not a good sight. Again, from the Columbia Expo. I mean, that, I don't know. Is that real? Is that even real? It doesn't look that real, does it? All this smoke. We've got the firemen putting out the fires. And it's an interesting question, right? That looks like it's been superimposed. So has this smoke been superimposed? Don't know, but look at the smoke here, right? There's something going on with this photo. And now with all the AI, we have to question all this stuff. How real is it? How long have they had this AI tech? They've now got AI videos, man, that you literally can't tell the difference between those and real footage. It's crazy. And here's another hands on hips man. All right. What's with the hands on the hips? Another one. What's going on here? Hands on hips people. So this is what these buildings look like in their glory days. Amazing, oversized, completely symmetrical, very creative. You know, these amazing facades. Of course, they turn all the free energy spires into flagpoles. Right, so everyone, you know, thinks that they're part of their country, and of course you've then got to dislike anyone else from other countries because your country's the best. All right, nationalism. But this is what they look like in their glory, and this is what they did to them. All right, and again, you can see the metal framing in the background. You can see this isn't burnt, it's not charred, it's not covered in soot. This stuff looks like wood. Why isn't it burnt? So clearly that they were using other technology to destroy these buildings. And some of the narrative says that they did, you know, destroy them on purpose because they're only temporary, right? And they would have fallen down, even though some of them are still standing 150 years later. I think we saw this one before. Did we? This one, I think, is in Germany. Old world building, made of plaster and wood, but somehow when you destroy it, you get all this stone and geopolymer stuff, concrete. All right. Another one with this metal framing. Like, so we can see the construction process that they would make these metal frames and then cover them in, you know, bricks. And then they would facade over the top of that with all their, you know, the white facading and all their iconography and logos and stuff. But they want us to believe wood, plaster, and then it was so temporary it had to go. And again, we can see it looks like a bit of a stairwell. You can see going up here, you can stairwell up the middle. Why? Stairway to freedom. Oh, we've seen that one before too. Another one. Now this actually does kind of look a bit like it could be wood. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. Down on the ground here, these definitely look like wood. But, you know, this big column here has fallen over and it hasn't really broken. You know, you would think that it probably would if it was wood. This one's about to fall, but look at this. It looks like there's cables and they're trying to pull it over. I didn't attach this one too well. It's just ripped a bit off the side of it. But yeah, man, they've just gone in and destroyed it all. So that one, who knows, maybe they did build a couple of temporary ones. I don't know, but what we do know, here's another pit, is most of it was definitely built to last forever. Because like I said, many of these buildings are still standing and they are in better condition than the buildings that we've made since. Not us, right? The brutal, nefarious ones. Well, there you go. Look at this one. I've only done half the job. So again, looks like metal framing, old world, you know, features everywhere. And in the background, again, looks like a completely iron framed building. And they just would go in and destroy these and rip them down and throw them over or burn them. Here's another one. All right, get the crane in, start destroying this baby. All right, actually, it's hard to tell if that's wood or metal, but they just go in and destroy all this stuff. And this one, where is it? It's in the USA. They destroyed it and then they said they rebuilt it. More just pushing over these amazing towers. Tower to where? I don't know. Somewhere on an airship maybe. Oh, and is that the end? That may be the end.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Stop.